Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Taysom Hill had a great day. Saw your piece at neworleans.football. We've seen Taysom Hill have great days before. Why did this one hit different?
Well, you know what's funny, too, is I sit next to Nick Underhill, and we kind of pick after the game, hey, do you want to do this, do you want to do this? But sometimes we talk beforehand. And I said, I got a feeling I'm going to be writing about Taysom Hill after this one. Probably because they needed something, and he's the guy who's, like, behind the glass, like, break in case of emergency. That's basically what Darren Rizzi said about him today, how he hadn't been practicing a kickoff returner, but Taysom Hill has proven to be the guy that, like, hey, we need somebody in here. Give me Taysom. And he kind of revived the whole offense. Look, Taysom Hill kind of said something that you know, he seemed a little upset that they didn't communicate clearly to him at the beginning of this offseason what his role is going to be. And he didn't really know until he heard Dennis Allen tell the media that he was going to move to tight end. But I think that just speaks to, they don't know from week to week. They don't know from month to month. They know they have something here, and they don't know the best way to deploy it. Even the fans of this team who have watched this work so many times take turns getting mad when they see him on the field, like, oh, no, not this again, even though it's always been very effective. They tried to move him to tight end because they thought maybe he'll get more snaps that way. They've only thrown one pass to him. They know he's a special player, but obviously, even Sean Payton, when he finally started at quarterback, did a bad job of bringing out his best talent. He's a very hard guy to figure out how to use, but if you can block the way they were blocking, and I've always thought he should be a big part of the run game, I have a feeling that they're going to realize, all right, we got to do this a lot more.
Let me continue on with the part of the run game, because I know we've had this conversation for so many years about what Sean Payton's record as the Saints coach was when they'd run for 30 carries or more. Mike Detillier would throw out that stat all the time. Something like they'd win 85% of their games or something like that. Is it possible for this team? Because look, when I see the rushing attempts for Alvin Kamara get over 20, I start to get a little nervous. Is this sustainable?
Yeah. Well, look, that stat, I've always scoffed at that stat because it's backwards. When you're winning, you run the ball. A lot of those, the reason that stat exists is because a lot of teams that are protecting big leads run out the clock at the end of the game. Show me what that stat says in the first half of the game. Do teams that run 20 times in the first half always win? I don't know. Okay. I don't know for sure. But it's always a good sign because it means it's working. It means you haven't had to abandon the run. It means you stuck with it because it was working. And so the Saints would love for that to be their script every week. That's 2 weeks in a row now where they've been really efficient running the ball. We saw the beginnings of it in London against Minnesota during their comeback. And the reason we didn't see it early in the season is because they were down by so much that they had to play this no-huddle, hurry-up offense. They had that insane statistic where they only had 2 total rushing attempts in the fourth quarter of their first 3 games. So, of course, this is the style they love to play. We saw them last year, even with Jameis Winston and his big arm. They were only, when they were 5-2 in the first 7 games last season, they were only averaging 180 passing yards a game. They would love to be run game, defense, and only pass when you need to. If they're able to sustain this. Now, I've had some questions about whether the offensive line's as good as it's been in the past. But I think they're showing signs of being pretty decent again.
He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Okay, you said Jameis Winston. Let's traverse that path. What do you do here with Jameis and with Andy, with Jameis practicing this week?
I think they're going to stick with Dalton this week, and I think they should stick with Dalton this week. I don't think Dalton has played well enough yet to make it obvious that he's supplanted Winston. Like Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe situation. I don't think we're there yet, but we're definitely at a point where the things are going so well under Dalton that you don't need to rush Winston back. Like, you can wait till he is basically 100% healthy or 95% healthy before you make the switch. There's no reason to do it when you're not sure if Jameis is still limited. So I think it'll take a while before they see them switch back. I would be surprised if it's before that, because next week it's a 4-day week before they go to Arizona. I would think it would be after that, possibly next week, or of course, if Dalton starts to struggle, then you switch back. But I don't think they're eager to rock the boat, so there's no reason to do it until you're sure that Jameis is fully back.
Mike, do you have any insight on what receiving options will be there for the Saints this week against Cincinnati?
Well, it's looking pretty good for Olave, but I can't claim to know enough about the concussion protocol to say that just because we saw him on the practice field, running some routes and being listed as limited, that means he's definitely going to play. And I know, I think the concussion protocol has gotten even stricter in recent weeks in the NFL. So it's really hard to predict that, but it looks like it's trending the right way. I think the Saints thought Jarvis Landry was going to play last week, so it's definitely a surprise that he hasn't practiced at all this week. And Dennis Allen said, when asked if he had a setback, he kind of hemmed and hawed and said, I guess you could technically call it that because we thought he'd be back by now, and he hasn't progressed. So I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen him, but it's not looking good for him. And even though there was optimism, I think in an Adam Schefter report with Michael Thomas, and I talked to sources that thought he's closer this week than he was last week. It doesn't look good when a guy's not practicing at all or doing any walkthrough or anything the first 2 days of the week.
Mike Triplett is with us, courtesy of Benny's Car Wash. Find a Benny's near you. Of course, get your membership pass as well. $14.99 a month, unlimited washes, as low as $14.99 a month. We appreciate Benny's for bringing us our conversation with Mike Triplett each week from neworleans.football. I want to flip it over. So here comes Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Boyd and Higgins and Mixon in this offense that caught fire, last year and ran all the way to the Super Bowl. They've not quite been as effective to start this season, but then I look at the Saints secondary and I go, man, with all those injuries, I don't even know who's going to cover all these guys. So who's going to cover all these guys?
That's a big concern this week, without question. It's not looking good for Marshawn Lattimore, and I wonder exactly how long he'll be out because DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams are on the schedule the next 2 weeks after that too. So it's going to be really tough. Look, Paulson Adebo struggled in this last game, obviously, although the safety help he didn't get over the top was a big problem too. But I have a little more confidence in him. He was so good last year. He looked incredible in the preseason, almost like the most improved player on the team. And then the injury stunted his growth a little bit. I have a feeling he'll do a decent job, though, even if I don't know if they'll shadow him. I don't know if they have that much faith in him. It'll probably be him on one side and Bradley Roby on the other side, with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins being questionable for this game. But you'd really like to see Marcus May back. He was showing some good things at safety, and they obviously missed him when they were down to their backup safeties in this game. So that would help, but that is by far the most decisive Bengals advantage in this game.
Mike, if I asked you big picture, we talked about it last week. I mean, last week was as close to a must-win as you could imagine just because of the math of trying to dig out of that hole if you started 1-4. So they get the win, they're 2-3. So how big then does this one become?
I mean, it's pretty big. I would say you don't ever want to fall 3 games behind 500. That's when we reach must-win territory. I mean, it's hard to. I think they're the underdog in this game. I actually don't know the line. I should know the line, but I think it's fair to paint them as the underdog in this game, and it's probably fair to assume they're going to be the underdog at Arizona.
Bengals 1.5 or Bengals 2, somewhere in there.
So with the injuries they have and with the caliber of opponents they're facing over the next 2 weeks, I don't know you can call either one a must-win, and then then they're going to come back home and they're going to face the Raiders and the Ravens, and those have become must-wins. But I think basically while they're figuring their team out and while they're getting through these injuries, they have to keep 500 within range. I mean, frankly, they could go into Week 18 at 500 and probably be mathematically alive for the playoffs. So there needs to always be a path to easily getting back to 500 or reasonably getting back to 500. So the season isn't over if they lose these 2 games in 5 days. And I think if they just plain split them, then you feel really good about the team. But yeah, they're going to be the underdog 2 weeks in a row. So it's going to be a tall order.
He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Read his stuff at neworleans.football. And, of course, our conversations with Mike are presented by Benny's Car Wash each week, each Thursday here on AFR. Mike, we appreciate it, man. Have a great rest of your week. We'll look forward to doing it again next week.
All right, thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.